colleges provided not only education, but something else just as important: refuge from a largely racist world.
The black college undertook you and nurtured you and gave you those things that would allow you to move through mainstream America. The black basketball players, they will in most cases say that that experience, that nurturing through the black college was so important, not only to them, but also to their family tree.
The university was performing the role of a mother.
They're nurturers, man. That's why you call them her. See, fathers don't nurture.
My first few months at Fisk, there was always somebody pushing me.
One of the great things that was up on our wall was, as you climb, you should lift.
I had tutors whether I wanted them or not. In fact, half the time I was trying to hide from tutors. At Fisk, you had to be neat at all times. You had to dress nice and have a shirt and tie and all. And I didn't have any of that.
I only had one pair of pants, and I would wash the pants and walk around in my underwear, hoping the pants would dry the next day. Sometimes go to class with wet pants.
But there were people who supplied that and made sure that I looked like a college student.
Black school felt that you had to be a good student. One guy, I remember about a week before we were going to graduate, he walks up to the desk of the secretary and says, "Are the dean in?" She said, "What did you say?" He said, "Are the dean in?" She went and got the dean and says, "This is the dean. Would you mind telling the dean what it is you asked?" He says, "I don't know what you're making a big fuss out of this. I came to see the dean. I just asked, are the dean in?" The dean said, "The dean are in, and your ass gonna stay in."
Our word will shine like Hampton will shine, Tuskegee will shine like fall down the line.
In black schools, Howard University, Hampton, Fisk, I don't refer to the head man as president. I call him the gatekeeper. The word president is just, it's become a bad word anyway. Amin was a president. Bush is a president. So anybody be a president. Tuskegee's had 4 gatekeepers since Booker T. Washington. 4. That's stability.
And my 4 years at West Virginia State, man, was like, it's like magical, man. It was a home away from home. It was a definite friendly port and storm. And it was what they call now, it was a safe house. At graduation, everybody's crying, sobbing, man, boo-hooing. And I said, man, they don't want to leave, man. You don't want to leave this place.
Because sports turned out to be one of the early conduits through which African Americans could integrate a field within the larger American society, they very quickly took on an enormous importance within the community.
At first, baseball and football were the dominant sports at historically black colleges. Basketball, after its invention in 1891 by Dr. James Naismith, began to build a fan base. In 1906, the first African-American basketball league was created by Dr. E.B. Henderson, a Harvard-educated phys ed instructor. Henderson's contributions to basketball were prolific. He developed the public school athletic leagues, giving birth to organized basketball in urban areas.
Grandpa was the driving force behind the initiation of inner-city play between Washington and New York City. Within 2 years' time, he hit such a pace that He had developed 40 teams and trained over 1,000 individuals.
By 1913, 2 conferences for historically black colleges were up and running. The level of play was getting better and better. Crowds were growing, and the games became more than just a sporting event.
There was usually a dinner, a game, and then after the game, a dance, where jazz music and popular music of the day would go on through the night.
Because of the lack of resources, you played in what was called matchboxes. And so the crowd was right there. You'd be in a hot room, you're yelling like crazy, you're pulling for your team. Folk are running up and down the court. Everything is real upbeat, very exciting, from when the whistle blows and the tap to the end of the game. It's just...
Great teams and big rivalries developed within these conferences. Tuskegee and Fisk, Howard and Morehouse, and then the undefeated Morgan State teams of the early 1930s. Games remained segregated, but in an extraordinary event, Virginia Union's Dream Team ventured above the Mason-Dixon line. They played 2 exhibition games against a squad composed mostly of players from Long Island University, led by legendary coach Claire B. Great coaches who often managed more than 2 or 3 sports at black colleges evolved out of these institutions. Talmadge Hill, Henry Huckles, Mark Caldwell, Henry Keene, and John McClendon.
John McClendon was an unbeatable specimen of a coach. We call him the godfather of black college basketball.
As a coach, you're talking about a little innovative man. Listen, he was out of sight.
He played upbeat tempo all the way.
He brought a brand of basketball that was revolutionary at the time.
This motion offense that nobody else was even thinking about doing then. Wherever he played, other coaches would come in and sit at the top of the gym, and they would be feverishly taking notes.
Part Delaware Indian, part African American, McClendon was born in 1915 and raised in Hiawatha, Kansas. He was a superb all-around athlete, a strong gymnast, and an excellent swimmer. But basketball was his love.
He wanted to go to Springfield College, where basketball was invented by Dr. Naismith. But then his father discovered that Dr. Naismith was right there at the University of Kansas.
So he took his son up there, told him to go see Dr. Naismith. John McClendon walked into his office and said, "You're going to be my advisor." Dr. Naismith said, "Who told you that?" And John McClendon said, "My father." Dr. Naismith said, "Fathers are always right." And I think Naismith really saw something exceptional about this young man and saw the passion for the game of basketball.
Naismith told him that the whole nature of basketball was to have activity. And the better you could play, the faster you could play, the more entertaining it was.
Dr. Naismith said it always bothered him when he would pass playgrounds and he would see kids playing at one basket, that he did not mean for the game to be played with one basket. The game should be played from baseline to baseline.
When McClendon left school, he went to North Carolina College, became the head basketball coach, and developed most of his theories on the fast break based on the Naismith philosophy.
At that time, the type of basketball being played all over the country was basically a half-court game. Played slow.
McClendon invented a game that was vigorous, lively, at top speed.
Coach McLendon devised a system where the ball should be shot an average of a shot every 8 seconds.
The fast break from a missed field goal. With fast break from a made field goal.
Now you got it, boy.
When you play these teams, you better be ready.
Pass around, boy.
I mean, emotionally and physically, the whole ball of wax, so they're coming at you.
While black college basketball was beginning to thrive, there were few opportunities after college for standout players to continue to play. Except for a small number of all-black basketball teams which barnstormed around the country.
Probably the best professional team ever was right here in New York. New York Renaissance Tribe.
The Wrens played more than 3,000 games and won close to 85% of them in a remarkable 27-year history.
They put themselves out of business. They were too good. Nobody wanted to play them. They just ran out of competition.
As the Wrens went out of business in 1949, the National Basketball Association was about to be formed. There were no black players at the NBA's start. However, there was one team they could turn to.
It's the world-famous Harlem Globetrotters.
The only basketball team that embraced black players was the Globetrotters. All the others, they just weren't attainable.
That's the only place for black athletes to go. There was nowhere else to go.
Basketball wizards extraordinary. Their patented blend of brilliant play and zany capers has made them the most popular team in the history of the sport.
The Harlem Globetrotters functioned for the sports world like blackface minstrelsy functioned for vaudeville. Globetrotters mimicked this reverse stereotype. You make your enemy laugh, make yourself appealing, and you could seduce them. The Globetrotters masked their own brilliance as athletes with this whole acrobatic, sometimes playing the stereotype strategy. But within the African-American community, they weren't seen as clowns. They were seen as extraordinarily gifted and brilliant performers.
At times, the Globetrotters played professional teams and even beat the NBA champion Minneapolis Lakers, led by George Mikan.
I grew up wanting to play for the Globetrotters because the Globetrotters was the biggest thing in basketball. I wanted to be Marcus Haynes.
Marcus Haynes decides it's safe enough for a little fun.
I had already carved out a name for myself. I was going to be Sonny Showboat Hill.
The Harlem Globetrotters, basketball wizards extraordinary.
There was always a trade-off with the Globetrotters. What's that clownishness about? Why not just go and beat their asses on the court in a straight-up fashion?
But the crowd didn't come to see them play it straight.
When I left school, I was as good a basketball player as I knew at that time. But I couldn't just go out and do tricks with the ball. You could say, well, let's do some tricks. I can't do tricks. My trick comes when you try to get the ball off me in a game, but I couldn't do it. And I got just a little bit upset over the fact that, my goodness, here I'm out here. This is my skill going to waste. I should have gone with Syracuse, a legitimate team. I don't want this.
Man, they're out of this world.
My parents and my teachers, they took very special pains to reassure me about my worth as a person. And you appreciate that. But then you go get on the bus, and there's a sign on the bus saying for colored in the back.
Throughout the South, at that time, you were treated as if you were something that was much less than a human being.
To go to the movie